How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Wolf, and welcome to my ultimate lab farming Deadeye. This is the character that I have made a ton of gold with so far, and I haven't even been able to sit down and actually mindlessly farm yet. So, to put it into perspective, with this character, I have been in lab for about 2.5 hours. It was 2 hours the previous day, and a half hour yesterday, when I was just doing some of my dailies and assorted stuff for a video. And I figured I would show you how much I have in my Black Lion Trading Company. I made 37 gold just off of selling my trick-or-treat bags. As you can see, I sold, I think, over 1,000 of them, ish, and I had earned those in about an hour or so using only Magic Find food with 30% Magic Find on this stuff, and an item booster that gave me 50% Magic Find as well. I actually screwed up when I was farming these, and I had my World vs. World experience reward track on, rather than the guild magic find. So I could have actually gotten more and made more gold. So, with that being said, why is this build so good, and why does it farm so well? Well, you see, the thing is we have access to Thief Shortbow, which is a spectacular weapon for what we are attempting to do. So, in the background, you're going to see some gameplay overlapped, and I will show up other things as I talk about them incrementally through the video. So basically, what the premise of this build is going to do is take advantage of the Shadow of the Mad King event, which is the Halloween event in Guild Wars 2, because he opens up an area called the Labyrinth. And in here, there's a bunch of assorted trash mobs coupled with bosses. Now, this build is set up to take on both the bosses and the assorted trash. Now, when it comes to farming one of these effectively, you don't want to just go in there by yourself and do that sort of thing. You want to press O, and it should bring up your, friends list and what have you. And then from there, you want to go to looking for group. Then you want to go to Central Tyria and Central Tyria squads, and you'll see all of this lab farming stuff. Fun fact for you, I learned this on Reddit today. If you type, hyphen and then lab, it'll show you all the things in here that aren't lab farming. So if you don't actually want to do that, you can reduce stuff in here by doing minus lab or what have you. That's kind of a cool feature. Anyways, back to the build. So the reason you want to go in there is because there's going to be commanders running a train around the map over and over and over and over again mindlessly. Now, the reason we do that is so that they can kill all of the enemies very effectively, as well as take out all the bosses very, very easily, because it's achievements for killing the bosses, and there is dailies for killing the bosses as well. So, with that being said, what do we want to primarily do? We want to tag the mobs as easily and fast as possible, which means we want to do a significant chunk of damage, we'll say between 10 to 25%. I don't know the exact math, I don't think anyone does for what counts as a mob tag. I think it's just hitting it. I'm quite sure about that anyways. So with this build, I've set it up so that just hitting it does more than enough damage to tag it as a counted mob, which results in us basically running ahead of the pack with our shortbow and spamming our shortbow 1 to pull as many mobs as humanly possible, because trick shot is our shortbow auto attack, which will fire an arrow that bounces between nearby foes and inflicts bleeding when striking poisoned enemies. We don't care about any of that, we just care about the bouncing. It bounces between 3 targets, and if you're playing with action camera, which will enable you to attack with your left click, basically all you have to do is put on your action camera, stay in front of the commander, and hold left click over any mob that decides to walk in front of you. That mob will then be automatically tagged, and couple that with a requirement for the farming run, which is the Mastery in Pact Commander Advanced Logistics, which will make it so that you have auto loot. So basically, we are now running around tagging everything with our trick shot, coupled with assorted other abilities, and we are auto looting it and automatically picking it up whilst we're running through. I quite literally put Netflix on my side monitor and made 40 gold 2 nights ago playing this build. So that being said, that's our sort of little introduction to this thing. Let's get into the build and what I put together. I have also used this character in open world. I have also used it in Fractal 75s. So this is a complete all-arounder if you are looking for that as well. With that being said, let's go. So to start us off, we are going to pop into the build here. Just start nice and simply for you. And this is going to be the trait line if you want to just copy it and paste it and call it good. I'm going to do a quick little commentary over most of these with some of the hidden tips and tricks that you can do. And then I will get into the gear. And then after that, I'll go into the abilities and maybe a trick or two with that. So, with that, let's get started, shall we? We have Deadly Arts to start, which is going to make it so our steel inflicts poison. It's not going to make a difference. But what does make a difference is Mug. This is going to deal damage and gain life when stealing. This attack cannot critically hit enemies. This is going to be a very nice amount of healing, as well as a very, very reasonable amount of damage. Coupled with all of the other things in this build, the damage from this will get even more vamped healing. Coupled with the damage itself counts as a mob tag and can potentially outright kill things, which is very, very insane, or at least do half of its HP. Because you see, we're playing Deadeye, so I should probably cover this first just to make the entire thing work. Choosing Deadeye allows you to get Deadeye's mark. This will replace your steel completely with a hunter's mark from World of Warcraft. So what this does is it'll put a mark on a target, and then it'll do a couple of different things, generating malice and all these sorts of things that we don't care about for this build. But what it will do, combined with Mug, is it will do damage to a target at range on demand, instantly. And it has, I believe, 1500 range, which our auto attack on our Shortbow is only 900. So at a very, very far range, we can apply our Deadeye's mark, and it will do damage for us. So, the thing that makes this all work exceptionally well in tandem, I kind of have to skip around a little bit here just because the way the system works, I suppose. But basically, the way this all works together is we apply our Deadeye's mark at 1500 range, we get a burst of healing and a burst of damage. We then use our stolen skill at the exact same range, which also does a nice burst of damage and pulls everything towards us and tags things farther away, pulling large packs potentially into the death ball of the commander and what have you. Or coupling with the Deadeye trait down here, Burst of Shadows, which is going to make it so that when your marked target dies, it does an AoE burst on up to 5 targets with a 1-second cooldown. So this is going to also tag all of the mobs around it when your specific target dies, which is exceptional for us because we want as much AoE as humanly possible to just tag everything. So, couple this now, right? You see one target far off, you hit your Deadeye's mark, you do damage, you do your stolen skill, you do damage, you auto-attack it as it comes in, it pulls 2 or 3 other enemies, you kill it, the Burst of Shadows goes off, it tags everything around it, plus the arrow bounces between everything. You've now tagged 5 targets quite easily. Couple that with the following trait, which is Renewing Gaze, which is Deadeye's mark recharges if your target is defeated. Yeah, you can see where the combo starts going here. So, with that being said, let me cover some of the other simple stuff up in Deadly Arts here. This is going to be Revealed Training, because it's the best in the row, which is just flat power, which is just damage on damage on damage. And then we have Executioner, which is going to give you a 20% damage increase on targets below 50% HP. Most of the time, in the open world or in the Labyrinth, your Mug plus Stolen ability combo will put them under 50% HP, then your Executioner will proc on any sort of other auto attacks and what have you that follow. Then we go into Critical Strikes with Signets of Power, because you'll see we're running 3 Signets, and this is going to be for a couple of different things. Signet of Malice is going to heal when you kill a foe. Everything is exceptionally easy to kill with this build, so we are going to be nigh immortal, provided we have enemies to kill. And in the Labyrinth, you have enemies constantly. This makes it a little harder when we get the bosses and whatnot, but I have fixes for that too. Then we have Infiltrator Signet, which is going to be gain might when you kill a foe. So if your team isn't generating might for you, you can generate it yourself by just killing everything, which is spectacular. And then we have Infiltrator Signet, which is Restore Initiative when you kill a foe. Now this sounds like shit. However, might I enlighten you to the wonders of Cluster Bomb. This is an AoE, a massive AoE, I can't really drop it down there, that will do bleeding and hit a bunch of targets. Fun fact for you, you can detonate this early if you press it again before it hits the ground. Harder to do up here, but nonetheless. Now, the thing about that is if you detonate it, it actually hits less targets. If you can see down there, it says maximum targets per impact 3 if you detonate your cluster bomb. If you don't detonate it and let it fly through the air the whole time, it'll hit 5 targets. So do be wary of that in certain situations. But when you're in a big AoE group Zergfest, if you just spam cluster bombs over and over and over, it will kill everything quite effectively. Couple that with Infiltrator Signet giving you 1 initiative back on kill, and all of a sudden you can spam cluster bomb literally forever until the pack dies. Nice little combo piece I found whilst making some builds, and it's been a lot of fun. Then we have extra fury granted when you crit an enemy. That's fine, just bonus fury. Gain ferocity based on your precision, which will combo with the rest of the build. Plus, it's just the best in the tier, so that's just bonus crit damage. And then we have more crit stuff, and we have invigorating precision, which is you are healed for a percentage of outgoing critical hit damage. This healing is increased while you're under the effects of fury. And like I said, I pressed the wrong button by accident. You will grant fury to yourself and allies when you critically strike an enemy. Fury only lasts 4 seconds and it has an 8-second cooldown, but you'll have fury up pretty much the whole time. So, with that being said, that's going to combo into our extra bit of healing. Oh, jeez, I've screwed this up very badly. But that is going to combo into our extra little bit of healing here, because this goes up with fury. So we're looking at 6% healing on every single thing we do with fury. Couple that with our Signets of Power, heal when you kill a foe, and things kind of get a little overkill. Like I said, you can't die. Then we go down into Deadeye, and we've got Deadeye's Mark, like I talked about, Burst of Shadows, like I talked about, and Renewing Gaze. The other thing, you also get regeneration when Renewing Gaze triggers, so you have constant perma regeneration, which is quite good. And then Payback, which is when Renewing Gaze triggers, this trait restores a portion of your recharge time needed for your healing, utility, and elite skills. Fun fact, I messed around with this trying to get other stupid abilities to work, just to have perma uptime on things, and I realized all of the thief utilities suck, aside from being literal utility like Shadow Step and Blinding Powder and what have you. Your damaging abilities is, yeah, they don't particularly care because everything has an arming time or. The only one that's really actually useful for this is Shadow Flare, and even that's a little iffy. But it is by far the best choice that we can have for the tier. I'll cover that in just a little bit when we get down there. Iron Sight is kind of whatever, it's just bonus damage. Strike damage dealt to your marked target is increased, and damage taken from your marked target is reduced. 15% damage on your marked target. Then we have Be Quick or Be Killed, which is gain quickness when marking a foe, which we're doing 24/7. Your power and precision are increased while under the effect of quickness. Basically 200 power, 200 precision, which then gives us bonus crit damage due to the scaling on practiced tolerance here. For gain ferocity based on your precision. We have quickness 24/7 because we're marking, because things are just getting one shot by Mug, plus the explosion, plus resetting itself with Renewing Gaze. Alright, you can see sort of how this pieces together, and I'm sure you're seeing with the gameplay in the background, the absolute carnage I am hopefully wreaking. But with that being said, let's get into the equipment, and then I will show you the utilities and explain a couple of things with them. And that will be the build. So let's go to equipment here. And my character is not fully optimized. I'll be entirely honest with you. This has been my main character for the last very many hours, and it's still not entirely set up correctly. I'm very close, but there's 1 or 2 pieces I'm still missing. But we are full Berserker with Scholar Runes. I have a little bit of healing power on here because this was just an Ascended piece, and before I learned about re-rolling your Ascended gear, that I put a Scholar Rune into it. I might make a one-off on how to re-roll your Ascended gear, because that is a very, very important topic that I discovered and saved me a lot of time, so I might teach you guys that one. But for the gear, we're just going straight Berserkers, as much power, precision, and ferocity as possible. All damage, pretty much everywhere. And Scholar Runes, since we're above 90% health, pretty often, since we're healing a bunch. If you're not confident in that, there are other damage runes you can go for. I don't know them specifically because I've just left Scholar in here for the past however long I've played this character since it's hit level 80. And it's not been an issue for me whatsoever. So it'll probably be the exact same for you without problems. I believe in you. Play the build more, play glassier characters more, you'll eventually get better. You can do it, I believe. Then we come down to my secondary weapon, which is going to be the musket, and then we have our shortbow. Now, I have a superior sigil of Bloodlust on here. That Bloodlust should be on the shortbow instead of the air, and the air should be on the rifle. I screwed that up because I'm just a monkey, I guess. But reason being is because we're obviously tagging everything with this over and over and over and over again, which means since we're sitting on Shortbow most of the time, it's going to be very easy to stack that Bloodlust. One thing to note about a Bloodlust Sigil, though, is that when you have your 25 stacks, you lose them all upon going down. Not dying, just getting knocked down. So that might be something you want to take off if you find yourself going down a lot, because Berserker Thieves are quite squishy. You take 1 or 2 mechanics and you're napping on the floor. It's a bit risky. But otherwise, Sigil Fire on the rifle and Sigil Fire on the Shortbow here as well for AoE on crit. And we have 48% crit coupled with the 25% from Fury, puts us at math 73.76. I think that's exact math. And then the rest of it's just all Ascended Berserker stuff. Simple enough. The reason that I use Rifle is for triple tap and its exceptional single target damage. So our Shortbow is our AoE weapon, as I'm sure you're seeing in the background. Although you're probably not seeing it now, I'll probably tab back to myself. But what you can use the Rifle for quite easily is to deal a significant amount of single target damage by switching to Rifle, pressing your 5th ability, which is my spacebar, and going to kneel, and then doing a 3-round burst over and over and over and over again. The rotation is exceptionally difficult, I know. So we mash 3-round burst towards the target. We use our Deadeye's mark. One thing a little bit different here, hold your stolen skill when you're doing single target damage, because the stolen skill might give you stealth. So you want to mash your 3-round burst, apply your Deadeye's mark, mash the 3-round burst, use your stolen skill, and then you should get stealth, and you should be able to Death's Judgment to do a massive big shot that does like 35k plus on the boss. So that is our basic setup there. And let's go into the skills and a couple other cool things that you can do. And that'll pretty much be all she wrote. Like I said, for food and whatnot, just any sort of magic find stuff. Candy Corn Gobbler for boosts, since it's on sale right now. You can go to World vs. World, spam click this, and get a bunch of hours of the item booster and experience booster, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to do that soon, and I will get back to you on that in probably a separate video. So stay tuned for that. But nonetheless, let's get into my utilities and a couple of fancy things you can do with them. And that will be the video. So, Shortbow 1, I talked about before. You don't ever want to really use the stealth skill. Not that we really stealth all that much on this build anyways. But nonetheless. So this is just going to be for trick shot over and over and over and over again. And I talked about that pretty much earlier. Cluster Bomb, I gave you the tips on that one. If you detonate it earlier, it will hit less targets. But if you let it fly the whole duration, it will take longer, but hit more targets. The disabling shot here is going to be a little bit of an evade frame. Fun thing you can do with this, if you're fast enough, you can spin your camera, and you can evade in the direction you're running. If I can do it correctly, for example. It takes a little bit of practice, and I'm very out of practice. But you can do stuff like that and evade in the direction you're running. Not much point to do that, though, because Shortbow 5 exists, which just teleports you a straight distance, but nonetheless, cool trick you can do with that. You can also keybind About Face, which is in the options, to automatically turn you around every time you press it. So you can just About Face Shortbow 3, and it'll do that in the direction you want to go. Your Choking Gas is an AoE. Massive AoE, applies poison. I believe the way that conditions work, is that they apply the condition to, well, first of all, everything in the area. But it'll put the new stacks on targets that don't already have stacks. At least that's how you would assume it would work. I don't know the exact specifics of it because that's code that no one has access to. But the other important thing about this is that it's a daze. So if you're sitting on Shortbow, you can break bosses' break bars by spamming Choking Gas over and over and over and over again, which is going to be very useful in the lab because no one's going to be paying attention since they're all on autopilot watching Netflix. So in that case, you're going to have to be the one to probably break the bar. So just sit there and mash Choking Gas on the boss, and eventually his bar will go down and it will do bonus damage to it. Also, just drop this on the door spawns and any like major spawns of enemies because it lasts for 3 seconds and will pretty much poison everything for you. Infiltrator's Arrow is a iffy ability, but you just want to use it to keep up at the front of the pack. You can aim it with your mouse or you can aim it with action camera. Either way is very, very easy. Little thing you can do with this, see if I can manage it. You can actually go to like a higher place if you fire it and like jump, because you can shoot the arrow higher up to get like more valid pathing and whatnot. I haven't been able to perfect that one just yet, but that's a little bit of a thief trick. That's a little more advanced for my blood, but I will get there eventually. Into the utilities, nice and simple. Signet of Malice heals you when you attack. That means anything you do that does an animation, so your cluster bomb, your, you know, disabling shot, yada yada yada. If you hit someone with it, you're healing 133 HP. Never press this button, just ever. So you're healing 133 HP, you're healing 533 on kill. That little bit of healing power I have on my gear is kind of helpful here, you know. You're healing 533 on kill, plus the Invigorating Precision in the build. That is going to give you the shit ton of extra healing, which is exceptional and wonderful for us. Assassin Signet, I don't really ever press. I just leave it as the passive power gain. The only time I press it is when I use Dagger Storm at the same time. So Dagger Storm is going to be a movement speed increase, 100% movement speed. So you just kind of zoom, especially when you have quickness up, quickness and swiftness, you just kind of fly. But this will reflect projectiles and throw daggers around that cripple and bleed nearby foes. These daggers also bounce. It doesn't say that in the tooltip for whatever reason, but they do bounce from my experience. So if there's a huge spawn, I would pop Signet or Assassin Signet and Dagger Storm in the center of it. Or if there's mechanics you need to dodge or what have you, Dagger Storm's exceptional for it. If you are wanting to focus more on single target, take Shadow Meld, so that when you're doing your single target rotation on bosses and whatnot, you press Shadow Meld when you're at max stacks, blast them with Death's Judgment, and you're good to go. Shadow Flare is our primary, like, major AoE ability. This is going to do 5 pulses of shadow magic damage in a huge AoE, and then give you a 25-ish second cooldown. This cooldown will be instantly finished because we're using our Deadeye's mark over and over and over again, coupled with Payback and Renewing Gaze to refresh itself, and then refresh the cooldown on our spells. So this is up pretty much constantly. Couple that with the fact you can use your Shadow Flare and teleport to it instantly by pressing the next button, by pressing the button again. However, it will consume it. It'll turn it off, but you can Shadow Step to it. So what you can do is you also have a built-in Shadow Step on this. Shadow Step, teleport, and then Deadeye's mark the next thing. It'll knock the cooldown down to like -3, and then you're in business. That's one of the other sort of tricks you can do with the build. But I believe that is pretty much everything. Covered all the food, covered all the techniques, all the little tactics, all the small little intricacies and whatnot. 100% of the map with this build. Had a great time doing it. And I am going to go into lab probably right after recording this video to both get the footage and make some more gold, because it is stupidly good in there. But yeah, with that being said, thank you guys very much for watching. Do feel free to critique my editing style and everything and whatnot, because this is all... It's not new to me, but I'm refining it down because I've been out of the game for a very, very long time. So do let me know what I did well, what you think I did well anyways, so I can iterate on it and keep it going. And otherwise, I hope you guys make a shit ton of gold during Halloween, and I hope to see you in-game. Feel free to add me. My in-game tag for my account is Eroth3096, which will also be in the description. Probably easier that way. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.